Hello and welcome to the next episode of DDR, a podcast all about your favorite Drow, Drizzt Do'Urden. My name is Justin, and in this episode we'll be diving deep into chapter 22 of Homeland, titled Gnomes, Wicked Gnomes, discussing all of our favorite plot points, characters, and more.
Welcome into the Underdark. I'm Jeffrey, and every adventurer knows that when you enter a dungeon, beware of the dragon. Ooh. Of course, I'm talking about our favorite tabletop role-playing game, the 5th edition of D&D. We're going to look at some of the parts of the chapter and how they relate to the game.
Following along with the show is easy. Just grab a copy of the book, read the next chapter, and then tune in every week. But remember, we want to hear your thoughts too. You can share those with us via email at drizztdoneright@gmail.com.
I love that email, Justin. We got an email from a listener. Just a little bit ago.
Was it a listener? I don't know if it was a listener, but it was someone that we emailed at least.
We did earlier. Who did we do that to?
I don't know. It wasn't many people, but there was one person we emailed. I don't know, someone that possibly wrote the book.
He did. He did write the book, I think.
Did he? Okay. Oh, yeah, it's big yellow letters on the binding of the book up there. It's R.A. Salvatore himself.
I'm glad you double-checked. I had to make sure. But no, when we got the email back, I kind of, had my little fanboy moment. And that's the kind of thing that just, it's a little kick to your day, just right through the roof. I couldn't believe that he took the time out to write back. I know he had interacted with a few of our Dim Light members beforehand, and I always hear nice stories, but you never really... I don't know. I don't want to hold anybody accountable. He's got tons of things that he's doing. He's got, no time to do any of them, probably juggling a million projects. I just love the fact that he took a few seconds to kind of hammer us out an email.
Yeah, and I told you, Jeffrey, that I woke up from a nap. I'm in the middle of going back from night shift back to day shift, and so I'm trying to readjust, and I woke up after napping and saw the notification that was just like, hello, Jeffrey and Justin. Well met indeed. And I'm just like, wait, what is going on? And it's like from R.A. Salvatore. I'm like, what the heck? And like,
right?
In this like sleepy stupor. And I'm just like, I am dreaming. What? And it's like, no. And it's not the longest email, but it was just like, man, that is so cool. That is so cool that he reached back out. He actually responded to it.
He took time to thank us for our interest in his work and for creating the Discord server, and actually wanted us to tell all of our Dim Light members. He said, please give my best to all the other Dim Lights. And I was like, oh, he even took a moment to personalize it and just make it for us and our audience, and instead of just, the standard road of stamp and clip and just like, oh, here it goes, just send it out.
Yeah. So
that was, Mr. Salvatore, if you are a listener, thank you very much, sir, for checking out the podcast. We appreciate the email, and we're going to continue to do our best moving forward to, do something that hopefully you enjoy and are proud of.
Absolutely. So we kind of messed up the whole intro here, but we ended with
getting out of the email and coming back to where we're going to go. To let you guys know, we do have that Drizzt Done Right Discord. We are just talking about it as the Dim Lights. The invitation, if you want to be part of that, is inside of the episode description. On our link, you'll see it's like a little handshake. Come on into the Dim Light Squad. It's a personal invitation. Recently, we were talking about some of our favorite characters in the book, besides the main ones. Sevek the Grey brought up Master Hatchnet, how his role molding the youth of the Menzoberranzan was executed with such panache.
Yeah.
And he's right, though, because when you stop and think about it, Master Hatchnet is a very haunting figure to the fabric of Menzoberranzan, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because you have, Zaknafein is a renowned weapons master, so you probably think that places outside of Menzoberranzan will know who he is, right?
Right.
But Hatchnet is molding these youth and then just churning them out like tin soldiers, one after another for generations of Drow. Not the training, but the mental warp, the molding that creates them.
And he's also affecting Drow across multiple houses, where Zaknafein is just House Do'Urden. Hatchnet is like...
Well, he had time in the academy as well, so he would have trained
That's
true.
Right.
But I just think that the indoctrination aspect of what Hatchnet does really leans that edge to what Drow become. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Scott brought up Kelnaz, which was definitely a cool character because he's the first, I think, the first Drow that Drizzt meets outside of House Do'Urden. Like he's seen other Drow. He went to see the
Right.
Drow Justice.
Yeah, but this is like the first major interaction. The first almost probably like Drizzt would have considered it the first friendship outside, but you know, as
Absolutely,
we know
friendship.
that quickly turned sour.
Yeah, no, he immediately double crosses him the first chance that he gets. Kyle, aka Prince, brought up Methel, the Mind Flayer. I love that because it's a character that if you read the book, you really it's easy to forget because it had such a small part in the where
tiny.
we've been so far.
So tiny.
But in the lore and background of D&D, you do know that Mind Flayers are something. They're not to be trifled with lightly.
There's something there, and I can't help but think still that something is going on there that we just didn't hear about yet. And so I'm like, maybe it'll come books later. I don't know. I haven't read that many of them, and maybe our listeners know, like, oh yeah, Methel's definitely coming back. But yeah, so I'm excited.
No, and you know what? That's all the more reason for everybody to keep tuned with us as we go forward into the next continue books.
Yep.
Continue into the next books.
Yeah.
If you guys have any of your favorite parts, any characters that jump out to you that we didn't mention that you'd like to, go ahead and send us an email inside of drizztdoneright@gmail.com. Come on back into the Discord and put them up inside of the general discussion.
Absolutely.
Check it out. Let us know. We'd love to hear.
Yeah.
Other than that, Justin, and other than, waking up from your nap to find out that we got that really, really cool email, how you been, bud? What you been up to?
Well, I've been all right. Like I said, I'm transitioning from going 3 weeks of being on night shift to back to day shift here. So I should be sleeping right now. I mean,
excellent.
As far as if I were on the same schedule that I was the past 3 weeks, and so I'm a little tired, but no, I'm doing all right. Our plant
I feel like that's one of those the old wrestling promos, but you're like a little tired. It's like, well, luckily you can draw, brother, on the power of the Dim Light Squad members to get you through the episode. Oh yeah. Go ahead, continue the plants.
Yeah, so we were refueling the one unit at work, and so instead of continuing with class, they pretty much just like put us in the plant to do whatever heavy lifting, wrapping up hoses.
Oh man,
going
the fun
out to
part is as you go forward, eventually you're gonna have to be like, just want to say hey to Frankie and the boys. It's a long shift, and guys, we got through it. Just appreciate you listening.
Right,
shout out to work members.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not qualified to do anything yet, and so a lot of us new guys are just like sitting there, just like waiting to be told what to do, and it was kind of weird, but we made the best of it, and it was a lot of fun.
That might be awkward.
Yeah, because some people say like you should be doing this, other people are saying the complete opposite, and we're just like, what do you want us to do? but
point me in a direction. Tell me where to go.
So it was a little awkward in that regard, but it was a lot of fun getting to know a lot of the people there. And afterwards, once the plant was up and running again, we all went out to eat for breakfast after the last shift, out to a small diner that I actually used to go to all the time growing up. Nice. Anna Marie's and Royersford. It was so much fun. I got pancakes there their pancakes are known for being the size of the plate and
Excellent.
like a half an inch thick. They're huge. They have this what do you call it? Like a challenge where if you eat 3 pancakes, then you get them for free.
I did that at it's Lightsville Inn in Lightsville, Pennsylvania. Not Royersford. They had a similar idea. The pancakes were very close to what you're describing, and bro, I tried that, and it was like a cement mixer in my stomach. I got nowhere near it. Pancakes are no joke. You think, boy, it's just 3 pancakes.
No, it was insane. But there was a guy next to me that ended up getting 3 of them. Like, he tried it. He also got an omelet on top of it. He got halfway through the pancakes, and he was just like, no, I'm done.
Yeah. Like, I had to cut my way through the pancake to see a part of the plate that I could put syrup and stuff on.
Right.
So it's like, I was already separate. It was horrible, man. Too much pancake for me. And I like a good pancake.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. So I'm glad to be getting back to a day shift here, but yeah, so I'm taking the weekend here to get ready and just kind of relaxing. And I mean, I'm so happy to be back here recording the next episode with you, Jeffrey. This is always so much fun. So, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. We, just getting ready tonight. Elizabeth has her last performance of the season for the Columbia Orchestra, so we're gonna go see that tonight. It's always nice to get a little bit of live music in, and the
totally.
orchestra. It's something that I never thought myself I would have been able to go see because I didn't grow up and have the kind of friends where it's like, well, hello there, Alan,
right.
do you want to go check out the symphony this weekend? And so going through my relationship with her, I get to be exposed a lot more to the live classical music, and it's a blast.
Oh, it totally is.
Got a few hours here before we go to see that. I'm gonna make up
Nice.
some nice little brunch once I'm done here. Got a
Nice.
Stacker's recipe I do. It's a frozen hash browns, scrambled eggs, green onions, a little bit of Canadian bacon, and some hot sauce.
Oh, that sounds delicious, Jeffrey.
Yeah, buddy. Give it a soft scramble. Throw the onions in at the end so you get that bright little pop of the flavor, but you offset it with the hot sauce.
Yep.
And you get the little frozen hash brown patties because they're so easy to fry up like that. You just put it on top of it.
Nice. All right.
That's about it. Nothing much. I like to do a little creating with my food. We started running. I told you I did the D&D game we just started, but it was session 0, and not a whole lot out of the way of it yet. But I'm looking forward to getting into the meat and bones of it all to see how people react when I throw bad guys out there, and then to see what it's like to go. Did I say there was 5? No, I meant 4. 4 bad guys. It was a slip of the tongue. Sometimes I get confused. 5, 4, 5. Sorry. Yeah, bring it back. Bring it back.
The one stubbed his toe, and he's just like, nope, I'm out.
Well, the one thing I've been listening to a lot of other podcasts to listen to, like how to DM, intro DM, and stuff.
Okay.
And the one idea was like, what if you kill a large portion of your party, and you want to continue through with it, but don't want to be a jerk. He's like, you could always reel him back into like a memory or it was a dream. So it's like TPK, everybody goes down, and it's like, so then, blah, blah, blah. And you guys wake up in the middle of the clearing and realize that you've had such trepidation and cold sweats. I was like, oh, cool. Okay.
That would be cool. Now, I mean, if you're doing that every session, there might be a problem.
Right. And that was the guy was like, look, if you want to introduce like a big baddie, but you're worried that like it's going to slaughter your party or something, here's an idea. And I was like, okay, well, different ways to, do it instead of just allowing everybody to, find somebody that like the resurrection shrines or like there's not many ways you can bring someone back from the dead. But
yeah.
I was like, okay, to put it as part of the storyline then, like just to have like a one-shot out where it's like, okay, this happened instead.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Looking forward to diving into it and seeing how the mechanics play.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, like I said earlier, it's there's definitely a learning curve going from a player to a DM. And it's definitely going to depend on who your players are. As well, well,
I think it's nice because I think a lot of them would be happy with just doing it theater of the mind style. So anything I bring as far as like the table mat and the little miniatures and stuff is gonna be like, oh, this is cool. It's like I just have bought a little pack of like wooden trinkets, like the tiny little pieces that you buy for. I don't think it's a game even. I just think it's a little pack of wooden pieces from the game dungeon, and it was like $5. But it's like, here's a little Christmas tree. Here's a little like little round ball looking thing. They can just be my bag guys.
Yeah, they're just placeholders. Yeah, that's all they have to be.
Yeah, so I was like, I think it's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So are you ready to get down to the meat and bones of
I am, Jeffrey. I am so excited to talk about this chapter. I have been all week. So let's go ahead and let's jump right into the Drizzt.
The Drizzt of It is the part of the show where we take a look at this week's chapter and we give you the Drizzt of It. Summary. We find ourselves down among the twists and turns of the tunnel mazes of the Underdark and are introduced to the Svirfnebli.
Nice!
That's how I'm going to roll with it. I'm hoping it's close.
That's perfect. I was really interested to see how you were going to say it.
AKA the Deep Gnomes. Salvatore let us know that they're not kind, and they're not evil. They're so out of place in this world of pervading wickedness. They're strong fighters, but their passion is plucking gems and precious metals out of the stone. News of a rich vein of gemstones was discovered by Burrow Warden Belwar Disengulp,
I love that name.
Yeah, it's such a. And I'm gonna dive into him, but it's just even if you never saw him again, that name when it jumps out is it just rolls off the tongue.
Absolutely.
He climbed over several others in order to lead the mining expedition, even though it was perilously close to Menzo Berenstain. But the danger couldn't diminish the pull of gemstones, and the risk was worth it. Every day in the Underdark was a risk. I love that because it puts it so matter of fact. Like at this point, we do know. Of course, every day is a risk.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
We witnessed that better than most.
Yeah.
The deep gnomes set to making escape tunnels small enough for them with breaker walls to help protect against lightning and fireball spells. The mining began, but Belwar was a very cautious gnome, always keeping a large contingent on guard for the most hated enemies, the Drow.
Mm-hmm.
Drizzt and Denon made their way through the Underdark on patrol, chasing rumors of the hated gnomes. Drizzt questioned whether they were as wicked as the surface elves. Maybe just a touch of sarcasm in his voice.
Yep.
Denon was not amused. He was like, I'm just going to forget you said that. Drizzt pushed the concerns down and tried to focus on protecting his homeland. His patrol was the most celebrated and was selected to lead the patrol. And he was on point, the loneliest place to be. The faint sound of rhythmic tapping vibrated through the stone. Drizzt removed a magically heated sheet that was covered on one side and used it to signal Denon behind that the gnomes were within 100 yards. I really thought that was cool. I am never short of amazed at the ways that they go to show you the improvision in the Drow. Like they're sending SOS, or not SOS signals, but visual communication, Morse code.
Yeah.
By having a heated sheet of metal magically.
Yeah.
And the other side's covered so it doesn't give off any light to anyone else. And he's just flashing back to
Right. It's
hand
so cool.
talk or silent talk, the code. It's amazing. Denon quickly formulated an attack plan, and they spread out to try and cut off the many exits to the tunnels that the gnomes had dug to create sort of like a net around the gnomes. Drizzt wondered if he could parlay with the gnomes, try to send them away without conflict. Denon almost choked on his anger. Question.
Yeah, he wasn't too happy with that.
At this point, I guess he's been asked several questions where you're like, you know what? I think I said go. Drizzt cast darkness into the gnome's tunnel. He drew his scimitars and dashed forward past the first guards with Guinevere as the alarms began to sound. Amid the chaos of gnomes running everywhere at the attack, one gnome struck at Drizzt with a heavy pick. Drizzt was able to turn away, but the gnome possessed amazing strength in his diminutive arms. Belwar Disengol watched Drizzt dispatch one of his best fighters and immediately grabbed the stone around his neck and threw it at Drizzt's feet. Drizzt jumped back as the ground began to emit heat patterns as if it was somehow coming alive. Out of the ground rose a being that was 15 feet tall, 7 feet wide, and it was angry. Elemental! Came a scream. Drizzt saw Massage fumbling through a spell book in search of some Dwemer to battle this monster. When suddenly Massage vanished, Drizzt right. It's like, wait a minute.
Just, gone. I forgot about that.
Drizzt already didn't like, sorcerers, and this is just more proof to the words of Zaknafane, where it's like, yeah, cool, sorcerers, awesome, but
they're just gonna
also
run away as soon. Yep, they're gonna run away as soon as there's danger. They're out of there.
Suddenly, Drizzt set his feet and launched into combat with the elemental, knowing that the strength inside of it would crush it. Drizzt watched in dismay as his hits only scored small nicks in the stone, barely seeming to affect the being at all. And that had to be really unsettling for him because, up until this point, he is just a master swordsman, slicing and dicing everything in his path.
Yeah.
And suddenly this thing is just like,
yeah.
No. It doesn't even really register.
Yep.
Massage watched from the side, cloaked in invisibility, and held his spell, hoping that the earth elemental would finish the job for him and take care of Drizzt. The chaos raged around them as most of the gnomes had either fled or been killed. But the combat between Drizzt and the elemental was center stage. The elemental was slow and lumbering, but it changed tactics mid-fight and simply fell at Drizzt, trying to use its extreme weight in order to crush the Drow. But Drizzt reflexes.
That would be so terrifying. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I picture what from Mario, the giant stones with the face that just fall
thwomps.
out.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it was. Like all of a sudden a swing. And then belly flop right at Drizzt.
Great.
Drizzt's reflexes had been honed from years of training, and he was able to escape with merely a glancing blow that still managed to overwhelm him with its unconquerable strength. But suddenly, a ball of hot fury enveloped the elemental's head. I love that description, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
And claws raked deeply into its face as both Drizzt and Massage screamed, "Guinevere!" in unison. Drizzt was elated because he had an ally. Massage is enraged because Gwen was keeping him from launching any spells even if he wanted to. He didn't dare hit the cat.
Well, I feel like he was also enraged because Gwen was interfering. He was hoping that the elemental would kill Drizzt. Yeah. And here, like, Guinevere's going in and preventing that from happening right away. And it's like,
a little bit of that, right, also has to be, jealousy? Because that's his cat. Why is his cat over there doing this?
Yep. Oh, and of course, like, one more thing. At this point, like, oh, no, that didn't happen yet. Never mind. I was going to say, eventually Massage does something that makes him become visible. Christopher, I am recording a podcast. Please go talk to mommy. I didn't even notice he came in. So, yeah, eventually Massage becomes visible again, but that didn't happen just yet.
Not yet.
Right? Yeah,
nope.
yeah.
He heard him, so Drizzt implores Massage to help, to do something. And suddenly, the elemental fell again. Only this time on Guinevere.
Oh, yeah.
Drizzt screamed out as the elemental fell and slammed into the stone to crush the cat. Except, it didn't slam into the ground.
Right.
It melted through the ground.
Yeah, it kind of like passed through it. So instead of like a crushing sound, it would just kind of, I imagine it would be a lot quieter.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have the same reverberation either, right?
Right. And so that would be just a very weird thing to witness.
Oh, yeah. In another tunnel, Belwar was being overwhelmed. He tried to urge his gnomes to fight in tight defensive formations, but his elemental was taking far too long with this single drow. The gnomes cast illusion magic to try everything they could in order to distract the drow. There was a whole lot of T's and D's there.
Mm-hmm.
But time ran out, and the battle was on. There was no more hated enemy for the Svirfnebli than the drow, and those drow enjoyed nothing more than slicing the smaller gnomes into even smaller pieces. I was like, oh, that is a fantastic line. I love that.
Yeah. What I liked about you didn't mention it in this because it's the Drizzt, like it's just a really quick blip of everything that happened. But one thing I really liked about the gnomes casting illusion magic is like one of the drow is just like this way and runs directly into one.
Like ventriloquism. Like that's the part where he was like, pong.
Yeah, he just
runs into the wall.
Runs right into a rock wall, thinking that it's a passageway. I thought that was hilarious.
Back with Drizzt, he looked for Massage when the floor erupted again behind him. He spun to watch the earth elemental rise again, the ethereal mist of the panther rising from its shoulders. Suddenly, Drizzt realized that his best friend may be no more. Was his only friend truly gone forever? A new light grew in his lavender eyes. A primal rage simmered throughout his body. There we go. He looked at the elemental. You were dead, he promised. The elemental couldn't understand him, of course, but it looked confused as the drow purposefully pushed forward. Massage stood there, still invisible, and watched in wonder as Drizzt attacked the monster with such fluidity and grace, such fury, the likes of which he had never seen. Drizzt climbed up and down the body of the elemental, expertly wielding the blades and chipping pieces of stone every time they found a small opening. The elemental spun and howled in rage, but every time it swung, there was nothing but air where the young drow should have been. Massage realized that Drizzt may actually be successful beating the elemental, and with a smile, he knew that now was his time to strike. He launched a lightning bolt at the creature, at Drizzt. The both of them intertwined. It was impossible to tell who the true target was. Only Massage himself knew. For Drizzt, the blast was blinding, and he was launched into the back of the chamber wall. He saw the twitch of his hands, the wild dance of his hair, but he felt no pain. His lungs didn't move. He drew no breath. It felt as if his life force had been suspended somehow. Massage walked up to check on Drizzt, feeling that it had all been a little too easy for him. Drizzt heard him say out loud, but he couldn't answer him back, to discern if he meant him or the elemental. Suddenly, Drizzt drew breath and a gladness spread through Massage, that Drizzt would not die so easily, so painlessly. Massage paused to think of a fun spell when suddenly, on the floor, a gigantic stone hand reached out and grasped Massage's leg. Talk about like nightmare fuel.
I know, right?
Pulling him into the stone. Drizzt lashed out to save Massage, but was completely befuddled at how Massage was still alive. He looked melded with the stone, like halfway buried. Massage explained that earth elementals travel between planes, but when the plane closed, the rock would fill in and kill him. Drizzt stood there frozen. You know, if Massage is alive, well then maybe, could Guinevere be all right as well? Massage screamed for him to hurry, to go get clerics before the gate closed. But suddenly a wall slid. Everything went black as a slab of stone slid away behind him, and the rock-hard fist of Belwar Disengulf found its mark on the back of his head.
Such a crazy ending.
Right? I was like, wow, okay, he's going to do this, gonna do wham!
Right.
Good night.
Well, just like, yeah, I mean, like, the wizard is stuck halfway deep, like, waist deep in stone. Go get clerics. Wham! He's down. What is going to happen here? Like,
yeah, I mean, is
the
Belwar
gate is closing.
Gonna kill
Massage?
Yes, that's it. Massage,
yeah, like,
as he's trapped, because he's got the ability to just walk forward and kill him, right? Crush him. Is he going to leave him to die and kill Drizzt? Like, what's going to happen? How do we move forward? It's a great cliffhanger for the end.
Oh, man. So excited. Yeah, just so excited to see what the next chapter brings. So,
I mean,
this
chapter was cool because it was just, I don't know, it's like pure, action from front to end.
Oh, yeah.
Just so much went on.
Yeah. And it was a lot of fun seeing a totally new race as well. Yeah. From their perspective, you know? Mm-hmm.
So like we had already met the Grey Dwarves, which I guess they're kind of similar in the fact that they are these are the deep gnomes are not the same as gnomes. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But the deep dwarves were not the same. So it's like instead we didn't really get to see the Grey Dwarves from their perspective. Belwar gives you a little bit of gnome perspective.
Well, yeah, we have a name.
Yeah.
Of another, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
that's a great point.
Yeah, so I mean, it's from someone's perspective. We have their name. We're learning more about this other character, and it's like, I feel like R.A. Salvatore wouldn't just introduce this character, come up with a name for this character, and then just kill them. I mean, maybe, but
Yuck.
Oh no, poor Yuck.
Yuck was the only goblin I've ever known to have a name in this book, and then one day Yuck was sacrificed.
I mean, as soon as we met him, he was gone.
He was just a candle in the wind.
All right. Awesome summary there, Jeffrey. Let's go ahead and start talking about our favorite parts in the dim light reel. The dim light reel, it's the part of the show where we cast darkness on our favorite parts of the chapter and dim light all of our favorite characters, events, descriptions, and more. And looking at our script here, we have it in the wrong order. So I'm going to scroll all the way down. There we are. So my dim light this week involves the fight against the rock elemental. So as you described, Drizzt is dancing around this 15-foot tall, 7-foot wide rock creature, instructing himself, do not let it hit me. Knowing that a single hit from this creature would probably feel like, I would imagine, a literal ton of bricks falling on top of him.
Maybe two.
Like, this thing is huge. Drizzt pokes at the creature, prying away a bit of stone from it, and I imagine that moment just being like barely hurting this creature, just like nicking just this tiny little pebble off of this creature. Mm-hmm. And it's just like you were saying, just how like his weapons just aren't able to hurt it that much. But it did seem like it hurt it a little bit, right? The creature grimaced or even growled. I forget the exact description that it said, but I imagine that this
in rage or something
like that. But so it seemed like the fact that Drizzt was wielding magical weapons had some kind of an effect on this creature. But
well, definitely didn't dull his blades, right? So at the very least, because you would figure that would mess up a blade.
Right, but it was just like, I mean, if you imagine just like taking a piece of metal and just like whacking at a boulder, like not much is gonna happen, And it's just like, that's really scary.
The boulder may decide to try to fall on you.
Right.
That's what you get.
So the elemental stomped all around Drizzt, attempting to stomp the life right out of this tiny drow. Just when it was looking grim for Drizzt, he was saved by his large panther friend. Guinevere! Like you said, Drizzt and Massage both yelled in unison. Drizzt in relief, Massage yelling in anger. One basically because he wanted the elemental to win this encounter. That way, Massage wouldn't have to, kill Drizzt at all. Like, it just happened without Massage having to interfere. Gwen jumps in and lets loose a fury of swipes on the, quote, face of this rock elemental. I never really thought of rock elementals as having faces.
Here I go as a complete, I'm dating myself a touch as a nerd, but the comic book for the Fantastic Four, right, back in the day, it's Thing, bro. Ben Grimm. Yeah, it's
I gotcha. Okay.
I mean, you could do other ones.
I gotcha.
Like
no.
Galaxy Quest also had a little rock guy going around, but that's what I think of when I see an Earth elemental.
Okay.
It's Thing. It's just that stone skin and that little mug on his face,
No, that makes a lot of sense. My mind immediately went to what are they called in World of Warcraft? They're called Infernals or something. They're not rock elementals, but they look like rock creatures, and they do have heads. I just don't really think of them as having faces. They sort of have like green fire all around their bodies, and so maybe there's like green fire that seeps out of cracks to make it look like they have eyes and a mouth and stuff like that, but I don't know. Anyway, face of the elemental.
For those of you who are just listening, that was Justin air quoting to the side.
So yeah, Gwen is there, like I said, just scratching away at the at this rock elemental, and just like a person trying to rid themselves of the swarm of bees, the elemental takes a dive, but instead of into water, the elemental dives directly into solid rock.
That is fantastic for a description. I love that. As soon as you say that in my head, I can just picture it. It's almost like the swan dive where you just kick the arms out.
Right.
Trust fall, going forward.
And so, I mean, like, I'm laughing now, but in the moment, really, my eyes started tearing up because I'm just like, oh no, like, Drizzt is thinking that Guinevere is gone, and I'm just like, oh no.
I mean, do you remember the first time you read this book? Because we've never really seen the Panther take damage.
Well,
and this is the first time it kind of calls into question, right?
Right. Well, this isn't the first book that I've read.
Oh, so you know.
So
okay,
I know,
right.
I knew that in the future Guinevere was there, and so I knew that Guinevere did not die in this moment. So that, spoilers, sorry if if anyone's listening along for the first time, but I knew that Gwen would survive because I read books further in the series. But this is the first time that Drizzt experiences Gwen being forcibly dispatched back to her realm.
Yeah.
So he looks back at Massage in an attempt to gather some insight on the situation, but before he can read further into it, Drizzt is ducking and dodging the rock elemental's attacks again, and so Drizzt assumes the worst. His only friend is gone, and in this moment, this primal rage builds up in Drizzt's purple eyes, and he promises the rock elemental, "You are dead."
That gave me goosebumps so hard because I read these in order.
Oh, totally.
So I didn't know.
Oh,
so
okay,
when
yeah.
this happened, I could feel emotionally Drizzt just harden and be like, you know what?
Right.
it's on.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I was like, ooh, like you knew it was coming.
And so, like I said, the moment where Drizzt thinks he loses Gwen just made my eyes watery, and I'm just like, and then when Drizzt turns around and promises you are dead, same feeling that you were describing, just like, oh man, it's on.
Yeah.
And so that had to be my dim light this week. So even though I knew that Gwen survives, Salvatore has just such a way with words that he can easily transport you to whatever he's describing, right? So when he describes how Drizzt is feeling in that moment, it just takes no effort to place yourself in Drizzt's position and you feel for him. Both this sense of loss of his best friend and the rage toward the creature that killed his friend. And so it's just very easy to put yourself in that situation. And for that reason, that had to be my dim light for this week.
I feel like when he said that and he says you are dead, right? It's like almost like you could just cue the Mortal Kombat song in the background. It's like,
right.
It's like that battle is on. You know what I mean? There's so many great anime shows, but it's like this that determined look just sinks in, and it's like
purple flames coming out of his eyes.
Yes. So that was a fantastic dim light. I loved it.
Thank you.
Mine is going to be Belwar Disengulp, his fight tactics, and his downfall.
Oh.
We run into Belwar Disengulp, and automatically you realize he's not like other deep gnomes. Well, he is. He loves gemstones and mining, but he's also very strategic and thoughtful mind. A new vein of gemstones is found near Menzoberranzan, the hated home of the Drow. But Belwar climbed over a dozen others of his rank to be awarded the privilege of leading the mining crew.
Mm-hmm.
Getting through would mean a week of hiking, probably through the territories of 100 other enemies. But fear was no measure against the love the Svrfneblin had for gems. Every day in the Underdark is a risk. I had to come back to that. I like that line.
Yeah, that's a great line.
Upon reaching the cavern, they found that the claims had not been exaggerated. But instead of celebrating, Belwar put them to work creating escape tunnels, winding constructions that would allow a gnome to pass, but short enough to slow down the pursuit of enemies. They also had breaker walls to deflect lightning bolts or offer at least a little protection against the expansion of fireballs. I loved this introduction because it shows a very calculated and thoughtful leader. And I would never think to put breaker walls up. Like, again, it's such a simplistic design against magic.
Right.
Like, you're like, magic. How do you combat that? And these people are literally like, okay, here's a tunnel, and when I cut left, I need something here in case they throw magic at me. It'll hit the stone.
Right.
It's like, yeah, of course, breaker walls make so much sense.
It's very cool.
It's mentioned how much the love of gemstones drive the gnomes, but Belwar's first thoughts about the safety of his mining crew.
Mm-hmm.
We next see Belwar in the chapter when his finest warriors cut down easily by Drizzt. Chaos is going on all around them, and the Drow patrol has engaged battle. Belwar realizes that it's time to use his most powerful magic, so he grabs the gemstone that he wears as a necklace and throws it at his enemy's feet, unleashing a powerful earth elemental, and he goes to help his fellow gnomes. The deep gnomes use their illusion magic to confuse the attacking Drow, but fear grips Belwar. His strongest magic and only hope is taking far too long with the lone Drow warrior that he encountered back in the main chamber. He'd really prefer to have the monster by his side when the battle fully begins. He ordered tight formations and set to try to hold out against the Drow, but they pressed forward and fury stole Belwar's fear as he lashed out with his heavy pickaxe, smiling grimly as he felt the weapon bite into Drow flesh. The time for magic and subterfuge was gone. The battle had fully begun. Here, we see the rage and passion that Belwar keeps inside. He's only trying to save his people and get them to safety. Everything that he's done to this point was to keep them alive. But as the Drow patrol falls in on his people, Belwar lets loose and leads them into battle. Not from a place of safety, but from right in the middle of the fray. The end of the chapter gives us one more look at Belwar. As Drizzt finally dispatched his earth elemental, Drizzt goes to rescue the wizard. Belwar pops out of a hidden opening and ambushes the Drow. We don't know where this is going to lead, but we can gather that some of the gnomes are able to make it out safely because Belwar was in the middle of battle. So to pop up here Well, he must have been able to fight his way out with some degree of success. Popping to ambush Drizzt at the end shows a further level of calculated coldness because this warrior is definitely something he hadn't seen before. It's a valuable target, and instead of just killing him, like Massage definitely tried to do, Belwar knocks him out. I found that to be very interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, why would he take the time to pop out and knock out the Drow instead of just remaining hidden? Why not just, it's just very interesting. Very interesting.
That's where it's like, you know from the gate he's different than Gnomes. But
yeah,
not to the degree, hopefully, again, without, any spoilers, hopefully we get to, expound upon those points going forward.
I hope so.
Get a little bit more explanation. So. But now that we're done with the dim light, where does that lead? Justin, do you want to take him down to the dungeon?
Let's go on down to the dungeon. The Dungeon Delve. It's the part of the show where we link this chapter with our favorite tabletop RPG. For my Dungeon Delve this week, I was tempted to go with that rock elemental, Jeffrey. I really wanted to, but there was something else. Were. I know, right? Like, it makes sense. But neither of us actually went with the rock elemental. If you are interested in the rock elemental, elementals are on page 124 of the monster manual. They have all the 4 types of elementals there. What is it? Earth, fire, wind, water. And
banned from the 70s?
Something like that. Or if you're interested in Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's very Avatar themed.
Nice.
But if you're interested in that, you can take a look there. I thought it would be more fun to go with something that was a little more obscure from the chapter. Something that was just mentioned a couple times. So in the beginning of the chapter, there were a couple times where distance was described as, quote, 20 miles east as the rockworm, the Thaqua, burrowed. And I was just like,
yes.
And, it's similar to how we use as the crow flies. Of course, this saying is implying that the distance is independent of road. So it's like the shortest possible distance between 2 points. But using Thaqua as a creature for describing distance piqued my interest. So I decided to make my dungeon delve this week the Thaqua. So I took a look in the monster manual. I have the monster manual here. I also have Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. And I didn't see the Thaqua or rockworm in either of those books. So I turned to Google and did a quick search. And I found on D&D Wiki, there was a stat block for Thaqua. It describes them as 4 or 5 foot worm-like creatures that spend their days drilling through the ground, basically by like melting the rock ahead of them. They're almost like lava worms in a way.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're not carnivorous. They don't eat meat, and they're not actually hostile in nature. But they will attack those that attack it, or they will attack those that threaten their eating grounds. What they eat exactly, I'm not totally sure.
It's got to be rocks. Some kind of rock.
Possibly some kind of rock or rocks, or maybe they eat gemstones, and that's why...
I feel like if they eat gemstones, you would know that the dwarves try to eradicate them or something, because the dwarves love gemstones.
Well, the Svernebli, right. But yeah, I didn't see anything like that online, but... I feel like it would have a more... What I mean is, like I said, if it did ate the gemstones, you wouldn't use it as a connotation, like, as the crow flies. It would be like, you would hate that thing, because it's always eating gemstones. Right, but I mean, like, do we like crows?
No, I said that, and I automatically regret it, because it's like, wait a minute, I'm not sure. They bring bright objects, they can solve puzzles, they've got the mind of a third grader. I don't know, something.
Right. So anyway,
we call a group of them a murder. You know what? Might not like crows. Maybe we should go ahead and shift it back.
As the kangaroo hops. So the Thaqua, this stat block anyway, has them as a challenge level of 2. They are a beast, and they have an average of 16 hit points and an armor class of 17. So they don't have a ton of health, but their armor is decently thick at a 17. Like it's not simple to hit, but I would imagine that they have a very rock type, like a rock hard skin. So they're pretty difficult to actually pierce. They are immune to fire damage. As I was saying before, they kind of like drill through the rock by melting it. So they're immune to fire, but they are vulnerable to cold damage. So they would take double damage to like cold damage. They have dark vision. So they do have eyes, apparently, which is weird. But they also have a sense called tremor sense, which I imagine would... I didn't look into it specifically, but I imagine that would involve them sensing tiny vibrations in the ground.
Yeah, you think like echolocation for a rock instead
sort
of
yeah,
like
right.
bats in the air.
Right, and so it describes it as having tremor sense up to 60 feet away. So yeah, they would feel tiny vibrations in the ground up to 60 feet away. They have a characteristic called molten body, which basically hurts anyone that touches them or performs a melee attack on them for 2d6 fire damage. So you don't want to touch these things. They're basically like lava creatures in a way.
Yeah. That's no small point. I mean, you could lose 12 hit points
right.
trying to melee hit
right. And
this
an
thing.
average
it takes 16 to kill it.
Right. An average of 7 fire damage each time you touch it or attack it. They are simple creatures. They have only one attack that they are able to make. This attack is called Slam. So it's basically just like, I don't know, hitting you with its body.
It turns out that maybe all rock creatures do that move.
Yeah, I guess so, right? So Slam does 1d6 plus 3 bludgeoning damage, so really not that much, but it does bring along with it that 2d6 fire damage, because remember, if you ever touch it, it's going to do the 2d6 fire damage. Also, one last thing, upon a successful hit, the target must also save on a DC 13 strength saving throw, or they get pushed 5 feet away. So, for a creature that was so briefly mentioned, it was fun to jump in on the internet and see that someone had a whole stat block made for it, you know? So I just needed to share that with everyone here. I know it wasn't a creature that was like a big highlight or rather dim light in the chapter, but it was mentioned enough that I was just like, what? We haven't heard anything about this yet, and you're going to throw that at us? And it's like, no, I need to know more about that thing. So that's why I had to bring it up.
I personally love it. I love when it's something is plucked out of the background like that, because I would have never thought to do that. And the fact that you did, I was like, you know what? It's funny because when I read that, I was like, the heck is a Thaqua?
Yeah.
I wonder what it looks like. You know, just in the passing as I was going through it. And so when you pull it out and give it the whole thing into it, now I'm thinking like, oh, it's a little bit like Tremors, right? If you've seen the movie.
Oh, totally, yeah. Man, I used to have like nightmares about that movie when I was young.
It's like just little things like that go through my mind. There's like Diablo, where you play those little worm creatures that come out from the ground.
Yep.
So it's like I get these fun little things because it's like you're right. The Thaqua is a very fun character from the background like that.
Right. Yeah.
Fitting too, not planned, that it was when we were talking about this week of characters that are in the story that you know hide in the background. You might not think of as much.
Right.
For me, I chose to go with the Svirfneblin, one of the most hated enemies of the Drow.
Mm-hmm.
Svirfneblin is the name of the deep gnomes for their own, or in their own language. They're a subrace of gnomes that live in the Underdark. They have lean and wiry bodies that are hard as a slab of rock. They stand 3 to 3.5 feet tall, weighing in at about 40 to 45 pounds. The males are completely bald and beardless. The females sport hair.
What? Interesting.
Yeah, right, a little different. And sometimes it'll often come out, it'll be like white. I guess it's sort of like the Drow hair. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
They're commonly dark in hue. They usually have brown or gray skin with dark gray eyes. They are surly and cynical people. Gnomes. They treat their own kind with respect and goodwill, but trust is not easily given to outsiders. All strangers are eyed with suspicion. The only thing that seemed to break their seriousness and pessimism was gemstones, which fascinated them. They did possess the same curiosity and craftiness that the regular gnomes did. This causes them to explore and sometimes abandon their cautious upbringing and explore the world around them. They did not possess the cantrip-like abilities of gnomes, but they had the ability to obscure their own presence or shapeshift. They also have a great deal of resistance to magic of any kind and can go undetected as if they were using the non-detection spell. Deep gnomes live in harmony with the rocks. They're skillful artisans who shape the stone with song. Their skill with the stone is what made them so sought after when it came to mining, gem cutting, artificing. They make excellent guides, scouts, and foragers. They start with an armor class of 15, it's a chain shirt. Hit points are 3d6 plus 6 and a speed of 20. So I guess a max is 24 for the hit points. They get a plus 3 to investigation, plus 2 to perception, and a plus 4 to stealth. So you can see right from the gate there that they are, inquisitive and quiet when they move.
Right. Yeah.
They have a dark vision up to 120 feet and a passive perception of 12. Not terribly great.
That's yeah.
The languages they speak are Gnomish, Terran, and Undercommon. I like this one. Stone camouflage gives them an advantage on stealth checks made on rocky terrain. Stone camouflage.
Oh, nice. Right, yeah.
I like that.
Right, yeah. That's cool.
Gnome cunning gives them advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws against magic.
Nice.
Innate spellcasting allows them to cast non-detection on itself without material components. Once a day, they can cast blindness to deafness, blur or disguise self.
Nice.
I thought that was pretty sick. So you see there when it builds up, illusion magic is very much their bread and butter. It's not so much throwing fireballs and stuff.
Right. It's like throwing people off their scent by sending them a different direction or into rock walls.
Or like you had mentioned, like throwing voices like that where they think that they hear their friend and they're going to go run into it.
Yeah.
Boom, they hit the wall. For actions, they have a war pick. It's a melee attack, plus 4 to hit, has a reach of 5 feet, and can only hit one target. It does 1d8 plus 2 piercing damage. They can also do Poison Dart. It's a ranged attack that gets a plus 4 to hit. Range is 30 to 120 feet, one creature. A hit does 1d4 plus 2 piercing damage, and on a hit, the target must succeed on a DC 12 Constitution saving throw, or be poisoned for a minute, which inside the game is going to be 10 rounds.
Yeah.
However, the saving throw can be repeated at the end of each turn. So you don't have to stay poisoned for the entire 10 rounds. You get 10 chances to save it.
Cool. Question for you, Jeffrey.
All right. This is where I tell you I have the answer, and I hope I'm right. Fire away, buddy.
Well, I know that you have an answer because you had very specific information here. Did you get this from the Monster Manual, or where did you find this? Or like
I believe
D&D?
that this one was D&D Wiki.
I
go through D&D Wiki. I have
Forgotten Realms sometimes.
Wiki.
Yeah. Some great resources there.
Matter of fact, if you go into our creature feature, you will find this.
Awesome.
The exact stat block breakdown I have for this.
Perfect. I want to do that with the Thakwa as well because I have one here. So
nice. We should actually also add the elementals. Like you had mentioned there on page 124.
Oh, we should.
I guarantee you we can find a stat block cutout of that online where we can just slap that into the creature feature.
Yeah. Too. Yeah, we'll do that too. Awesome. Perfect. Well, the reason why I was asking is because I was just like, what if you wanted to be a rock gnome?
Yeah, no, I think you could do that. I think you have enough, right?
I'm sure
it
you
just
could.
Doesn't tell you the spell slots and stuff.
Right. So
from there.
Well, I mean, the spell slots and everything would come from the class, but yeah, I'm sure someone's put out a what's it called? A race stat blocker or whatever.
I'm not going to go into what deep gnome I would create or what deep gnome you could probably find a stat class for, but
right.
I wouldn't be surprised either if you could find the most honored world burden somewhere in there.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, just like that, we are at the 55-minute mark here, Jeffrey, and that's going to do it for this episode, I think, right?
Yeah, and for the people who are looking down at the time on your podcast, got to think about the fact that we're going to chop a little bit of this to make it sound really good for you guys. So you might be on like,
oh, that's
51.
true. I forgot. Yeah, we're going to have a little bit of, I forgot about that. Yeah.
That's the
So
behind
we'll
the
see.
scenes fun of
We'll
what
see.
we do, ladies and gentlemen.
There is a little bit of editing that I do. So cool. All right. Well, we're going to call that episode. What is that? Episode 22. So thank you everyone for listening. Remember that if you like the show, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Get those notifications when we put a new episode online. Give us a rating. Do all those things that you do. Share the podcast with everyone. Whatever. All right. Also, make sure that you are getting the most out of this podcast. Pick up a copy of the book and read along with us. If you don't have the book, consider the podcast. Pick up the audiobook rather. Man, this night shift stuff is messing up my brain.
But if you only have the book and you're listening in, consider the podcast as well.
So you can listen to the audiobook while you're commuting to work, while you're at work if you're able to, at the gym, wherever you are. So whenever you've read the next chapter, you can shoot us an email at drizzdoneright@gmail.com or hit that Discord invitation in the podcast description and join in on the ongoing discussion. Remember, we would love to hear from you.
And then wanted to take a moment to bring up that we do have the link in the episode to support the podcast. Your donations help grow this podcast, and without your support, we wouldn't be where we are without you. Mm-hmm. We find ourselves here at the end of another chapter, caught in the fun space between the end of one and the beginning of the next one. So we're going to wait right here till you push play. Until next time, farewell. Play fair, be well, friends.